Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tyler's Tiger Talk. So if you're like me, you're counting down the days to LSU football. And some questions might arise. You might say, Tyler, what are LSU's chances to win the West? To win an SEC championship? To win a national championship? Well, I'm starting a series called LSU's Road to Glory, starting with this episode. It's going to break down LSU's season, players that are going to be key to its success. Just everything leading to LSU in a national championship. And hopefully my last video will be about LSU winning a national championship. But we'll see. And the main component to go with this, and starting in this video, the most important thing LSU has to do in September is go to Orlando and beat Florida State. That game will illustrate LSU's season going forward. I'm not saying if LSU loses the game that LSU will have a losing season, but you saw it last year. It took LSU a while to bounce back from that Florida State game. And even though they won some games, they really struggled in games they shouldn't have. And it just took LSU a while to find a rhythm. And they found that rhythm, and you saw it later in the season, beating Alabama. You had some tough losses, but you still won the West. You still demolished a Purdue in a bowl game, and LSU looked really good. Going forward, you have some major players. You got Jaden Daniels on offense, paired with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. That's your new Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. It really is. LSU in 2018 had a kind of not similar, but same kind of year where it was like they won the majority of their games, but they still lost some. And then in 2019, obviously we know what happened in 2019. It was an insane year. They had a bounce back year, and they went undefeated. And they won an SEC championship and a national championship. LSU could do that this year. I think this is LSU's biggest chance to claim the West as their own. And not just this year, but for a while. Alabama's still a good team. They're always going to be a good team. But they're not the Alabama we're used to seeing. They're more of like what LSU used to be when they used to play Alabama. I think the roles are kind of reversing. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just what it looks like. Even in 2018, a 4-4 LSU went into Tuscaloosa and almost beat a 7-1 Alabama. You got to realize we only lost that game by 4, and that's something I talked about a lot before the Alabama game in 2022. So this is LSU's biggest chance to claim the West, and you're like, what about Texas A&M? They have a lot of talent. They even beat LSU. Let me walk you through this, right? Have you ever been to Target and maybe you're passing the women's section and you see a fat model up on those little pictures? Texas A&M is a fat model, right? Fat models are like, tell me I'm pretty. I'm pretty, right? That's Texas A&M. You're like, all right, you're pretty. We get it. That's kind of Texas A&M. Texas A&M is not a real model, right? They have the people talking about them, telling them they're pretty. But in all actuality, we know that bitch ain't pretty. All right? Sorry to break it to you. That's Texas A&M. So I'm not worried about Texas A&M, whether we lose to them or not. I mean, I don't think we are. We lost to them last year. LSU also was going through a phase. So there's that. LSU lost to Texas A&M in 2018 and then absolutely demolished them in 2019. So I'm not worried about Texas A&M. I think the biggest threat in the West, and will always be in the West, and who has always been in the West, is Alabama. So Alabama looking like a hurt deer. This is LSU's chance to claim the West as their own. You claim the West in 2022. Claim it in 23. But pushing all that aside, LSU has to assert their dominance in the first game against Florida State. It's important. It's important that LSU goes into Orlando. Even though it's considered neutral territory, they're going into someone else's ground. I mean, it's pretty much like going to Florida State. I mean, it's not neutral ground. Just how Florida State went to New Orleans. It's not neutral ground. You're going away. So it is important that LSU goes and asserts their dominance against Florida State, because I think if you do that, LSU will be top 5, ranked top 5, top 3 team after that. And then on out, you really don't have a tough schedule. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but it's not that hard. Your biggest game is going to be after Florida State. It's going to be Alabama in November. So you don't have to worry that much after you get the hurdle of Florida State. Once you beat Florida State, from then on out, it's go time. I think mentality plays an important role in football. Motivation is important in all sports, but it's very important in football. Because you can get sucker punched in football and lose a game because there's no motivation on your side. It happens. LSU could lose to Alabama by 21 points because they had a couple punches on the face, and say they were to play Alabama the next day, and they could beat them by 21 points because they had motivation going their way. So motivation is a huge factor in sports, and I think if LSU beats Florida State, they have that going forward for them. They go, okay, we beat a top 10, top 5 team, wherever Florida State's ranked by then. We got this. We got this in a bag. I think LSU really has the chance after Orlando to really just start knocking on some heads, because I mean, it's going to be a tough game. Florida State has a lot of veterans. They have that. They're used to their coaching staff. They have a lot of those same guys on offense and defense, and it's going to be a tough game for LSU because Florida State hasn't been, that good in a while. But like I said, they have those veterans. They have those guys that have been there for a while, and that'll play a huge factor going for them. But LSU has the talent. They have that rhythm now. They know what to do. Jaden Daniels is an exceptionally good athlete. We saw it all throughout the year. Jaden Daniels can do it with his legs, and later in the year he started doing it with his arm. It's going to be important, and I might repeat this over and over again throughout multiple videos, but that Jaden Daniels starts to find his guys downfield. He has really good receivers. It's just he needs to be able to scan the field and find his guy, because you notice a lot with Daniels is he would look for his target receiver, because most plays you have your target receiver. You have the receiver that you're throwing to. You have that wide receiver one. But then if that guy wasn't open, you saw Jaden Daniels tucking the ball and running. And yes, he made some exceptionally good plays with his legs, but it killed him in the long run because, first of all, he started to get hurt throughout the season, taking big hits, and he's going to need to be healthy if LSU is going to win some games. Not that I don't believe in Nussmeier, but Jaden Daniels is your number one guy, so you want him healthy. You want him making those decisions with his eyes, where he wants to go downfield, evaluating second by second what he needs to do once that ball is snapped. And I think Jaden Daniels can do that. He's that guy for LSU right now. He's an athlete. He's dangerous. He's a potential Heisman Trophy winner if he takes what he did last season, evaluates, you know what? I did this and this wrong. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to get better at this. And implements that into 2023 season. It's not going to be easy. It isn't. You're starting off with a really hard test against Florida State. But if you overcome that, especially after losing to them last year, you have so much potential to win everything else. To win the West. To win an SEC championship. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. And it's definitely more possible than it was last year. LSU had to find their way last year. And there's still going to be some questions that we have going into this year if LSU can handle it. But you've seen that they got the wide receivers. You've seen the potential in the quarterback. You've seen it with the defense. I mean, Harold Perkins coming in as a freshman, dude was a beast. He literally won games for LSU. Think about what happened when LSU put him in against Ole Miss. At one point, I want to say LSU was down, 2 scores? And they put Harold Perkins in, and he began to dominate. Look what Harold Perkins did against Arkansas. LSU goes up to Arkansas. It's a cold day. There was snow on the field before. A couple of the players are sick with the flu. No problem for Harold Perkins. He takes care of business in Arkansas. If Harold Perkins was not on that field against Arkansas, LSU, another loss for LSU. He is a beast. He is fast. He is agile. I mean, the dude can mirror a quarterback like the quarterback's looking in a mirror at himself. You saw it when he was against Alabama and Bryce Young. I mean, we're talking about Bryce Young, a first-round pick. Bryce Young. I mean, dude is a beast. He's fast. He was agile. But when he went up against Harold Perkins tracked him down like he was a heat-seeking missile. The dude is insane. You know when you're watching National Geographic and there's like a hog or something and then there's just this 800-pound fucking tiger stalking this hog. He's like, through the grass and the hog doesn't know he's there. Harold Perkins is the tiger in that scenario. He's a beast. He hunts. And you're not going to get away from him. Sorry, little hog. You saw it with Arkansas and Hornsby. Hornsby's a fast, quick dude. Didn't matter. Harold Perkins is faster and smarter. And you're talking about, them putting Harold Perkins in a small role as a QB spy or a blitz. And look how he affected the game just doing that. Immensely. I mean, you needed Harold Perkins out there to win games. And he did that for you. I mean, LSU's defense is going to be scary on the defensive line. Your linebackers, your DBs. They're going to set it on fire. You have all the ingredients you need to win football games. But it starts against Florida State. It starts in Orlando in September, your first game of the year against a top 10, top 5 team. Who knows what they're going to be ranked by then. Florida State has the coaches that have been there for a while. They have the players that have been there for a while. They beat you last year. And you have to remember, look at all the mistakes LSU made and still almost won that football game and still almost tied that football game. So LSU definitely can win this game. They definitely can beat Florida State, but they can also lose to them. So that's that. You know, I'm not going to usually break games game by game. But I think Florida State is so important that you really need to put it in its own category and in its own video because they are so important to beat. Because not that Florida State has been setting the world on fire for the past few years, but it's just going to be a hurdle for LSU mentally to win that game. It's important. And like I said, it's going to set the tone for the rest of the season. If LSU could get that win in Orlando, it is going to be huge. Remember, I said that. It is going to be huge for them if they get that win in Orlando. Florida State has the quarterback. They have the defense. They have the O-line. I mean, they have what it takes to beat LSU for sure. But we'll just have to wait. You can only talk about it. You can only speculate about it. Until it comes, you don't know what will happen. LSU could crush Florida State. Florida State could crush LSU. It could be a close game. It could be the best game we've seen in college football of all time. Who knows? We'll have to wait. Until then, it's been a good video. It really has. We brought up some great points going into the season. I'm excited. I know a lot of LSU fans that are excited. I mean, you still got baseball going on, but in the back of your mind, you're always thinking about LSU football. So like I always says, leave a like on the video. You know, consider subscribing. Leave me a comment. I love reading comments, even if it's a statement. Leave me a question, whatever you have. I love reading through everything. As always, thank you for watching. And go Tigers.